Guy Biederman is a writer and teacher who lives on a houseboat with his wife and tuxedo cat and walks the planks daily. A former Peace Corps volunteer and sports writer, Guy is a reluctant psychic, tuxedo cat valet, and pareidolia doula. He's the author of 6 books, including the just-released, translated from the original, One-Inch Punch Fiction from Nomadic Press. Over 300 of Guy's stories and poems have been published here and abroad, along with 900 rejections. In journals such as Carve, Flashback Fiction, MacQueen's Quinterly, The Disappointed Housewife, Flash Frontier, and Riddled with Arrows. His work has received a Publisher's Choice Award, an Editor's Choice Award, a 3rd place finish in New Zealand's National Flash Fiction Day contest, a nomination for Best of the Net, and a nomination for the Best Microfiction Anthology 2023. It's all true, especially the fiction. You can learn more at guybiederman.com. Palo Alto writer Robert Eugene Rubino is a graduate of San Francisco State University and a retired newspaper copy editor and sports columnist who was 70 when his first published poem appeared in 2018. Since then, Robert has published prose and poetry in various print and online journals and 3 collections: Aficionado from Hummingbird Press, Vanity Unfair from Cathexis Northwest Press, and Douglas Knocks Out Tyson, UnCollected Press. Robert was an in-person regular at Bay Area open mic venues before the pandemic, and in recent years continues to participate through Zoom. Please welcome Robert Rubino and Guy Biederman.
Thank you so much, Sandy. It's really a pleasure to do this, especially with my longtime friend, Guy Biederman. We've been friends for over 25 years. Guy has been a teacher, a mentor, but mostly a really good friend. So this is a thrill. I'd like to start off actually by reading one of Guy's poems. It's one of my favorites, and it's called Waiting for Results. Sitting in the sun on a patio made of stone, I open the dictionary and look up benign. It's already the most beautiful word in the English language, but with that silent G, that way of landing without ending, it sounds as if it alighted from another tongue, perhaps French, dropped in for a while and stayed. Some words do that. The original name for butterfly was flutterby. Holding the dictionary in my lap, I sip green tea and watch a monarch linger near the bottlebrush tree. Butterflies have no mouths but taste through their feet. Some moths never eat, subsisting on stored energy from their youthful larvae days. These facts are new to me, the way the results of my labs will be. But whatever I have, I've had for a while. Today, I'll just find out its name, which makes today different from yesterday. That and the way this butterfly now alights on my finger, wings gently pulsing, then flutters away. Waiting for Results by Guy Biederman.
Thank you so much, Robert. And Sandy, thank you very much for hosting this reading. Rivertown, thank you. Aquas Cafe, very much appreciate it. And it's an honor to be here today with my friend Robert. 25 years, I think it is. It's an extraordinary friendship. He's an amazing person, a fantastic writer, and a beautiful poet. Thank you, Robert. And I would like to read a poem by Robert, one of my favorites by him. And it's called King for a Day. Checkers pieces get reset yet again. It's only a friendly game after all, right? Right. As if we ever played any game not wanting to annihilate the other. He calmly assumes air of dignity, while hunched in a wheelchair, his chin looking like it's attached to his plaid shirt's buttoned top button, his oversized diaper bulging over coffee-stained red sweatpants, his wrinkle-rutted face splotched with dried blood, result of nursing home aides shave, his breath a labor of longing, watery eyes searching for land. His World War II combat brothers all gone, one just last week. Now he's the last. His Josie, wife of 62 years, dead 3 months. Family expects him to follow any day now. Family will be wrong by 5 years. He makes yet another unruly triple jump using whatever damn pieces, moving in whatever damn direction he damn well pleases. This time adding a flourishing, finishing flick of his wrist and guttural gargle of a command. King me. Well, I know a con job when I see it, or at least I think I do. Hell, I really have no idea. I sit and stare, shrug and sigh. No more resetting of pieces. Time and toil crown my father, and his tender tenor rasps and gasps. Give up, wise guy. King for a Day by Robert Rubino.
Thank you so much for that reading, Guy. Really appreciate that. So Guy and I now will read our own stuff and hope you enjoy it. Love in the Time of the Cuban Missile Crisis. An hour after our idolized Catholic president tells the nation we might all get blown to kingdom come any day now, you exit your parents' warmly lit living room and step out all bundled up into the windless chill of a late October night. A zit-faced, skinny as a stickball bat 14-year-old, looking for the exotic 16-year-old girl next door, walking her pint-sized dog. With nuclear annihilation imminent, you figure you might as well bare your soul and tell her how you feel. For nearly 2 weeks, Kennedy and Khrushchev and Cuba hold civilized existence in a chokehold of existential crisis, as lines into churches of all denominations spill onto the streets. And for nearly 2 weeks, you find comfort in cold, clear nights, walking with the exotic girl next door and her tiny dog, as if in a fever, talking about doomsday desires and diminutive dogs until, like roiling wintry clouds, the crisis and the fever pass. The former with an extended collective exhale, the latter with a singular sigh, leaving a small surgical scar on your psyche and a not altogether negligible bite mark on your adolescent ass.
That was wonderful, Robert. I love how you bring not just your people to life and the place where they are, but also the era, the wonderful history we get as well. I don't know about anybody else, but I was raised on Carnation Instant and very sugary, sweet cereals for breakfast. This one's called Lucky Charms. I should have had a better breakfast the morning I took my IQ test. Misgenius by a point. Damn Lucky Charms. Some say you try harder when it's not just handed to you. Is that true? My neighbor's outdoor cat stares through the window at our indoor balls of fluff. Does he just want to be friends? Meaning is overrated in my book. I come down closer to feeling. Call it a trust issue if you must. I give the neighbor's cat a squirt from the hose and he heads off to crap in my flower bed, pee in my kayak, and I know how he feels. Though what it all means eludes me. I'm a card-carrying genius with a fake ID. Poems come to me on the float as cats purr rhythmically, and the tide takes me home without trying. Feeling lucky rather than blessed, I let it go. Let all those meanings flee to their new home. What I remember best, can taste to this day, are not the lucky charms or some lame-ass leprechaun on the cereal box, but the sweet, pink, leftover milk in the bottom of the bowl, which I tilted to my lips with both hands and drained, before heading out the door to see what tests the world had in store for me that day. Lucky Charms.
Such an evocative piece, Guy, although I have to confess I was a Wheaties boy myself. This next one is called Wallflowers of the World Unite. We baby boomer wallflowers, having barely begun our body blooming years, mere months since first menstruation, first erection, must have looked like bug-eyed fungus, our backs against the world, against the wall of a nearly finished suburban basement, as if in a Twilight Zone police lineup, suspected of doing nothing or next to nothing, too afraid to follow the new normal's hormonal urges. As our hipper, cooler, hotter, braver, better complexioned peers slow as molasses, slow dance to Johnny Mathis songs before graduating to frisky French kissing on couches demoted from the plastic-coated living room upstairs, where the greatest generation parents consoled themselves by staring at their state-of-the-art color TV console, flipping from Nixon Kennedy speechifying to Jackie Gleason playing spousal abuse for laughs, and smoke and mirrors TV ads sexualizing nicotine addiction. As aromas of perfume, more like fresh baked sugar glazed peach pie wafted from newly breasted girls becoming women, and as aromas of cologne, more like spilled tumblers of Christian Brothers brandy wafted from first-time shaved boys becoming men, as one wallflower's politely ruthless rejection of another's painfully belated dance offer somehow certified all our freshly minted guilty innocence. We wallflowers silently stared into our geeky, grim here and now, desperate for a time machine, or merely better timing, as the misty music lingered in the subterranean air.
Very fine. This piece is called Invisible Shelf. We need places to put things. We need names to call things. We need to say what needs to be said, even if we don't know how to say it. And sometimes, even if it doesn't need to be said. So in the end, I build an invisible shelf, a shelf only I can see, where words don't fail, where rudimentary skills don't mangle, where things I later wish I hadn't said don't bruise or spoil. I can really only do 3 things in this life. I'm doing one now, building an invisible shelf where I can put how I feel about you, so I can see with much love what it's really about, what you mean to me with no weirdness or misunderstanding or wrong label. So if you were to find this poem on the fiction shelf, or this little fiction in poetry, this avocado in the bin of tomatoes, this toothbrush where aluminum foil should be, know that somewhere in a market, in a bookstore, in a cafe, in a house that floats, there's an invisible shelf where sits how I feel about you and nothing else. Invisible shelf.
Thank you, Guy. I always admire how your writing is what I call deceptively simple, because underneath it's so much depth. Really admire that. This next one happens to be a favorite of my two younger brothers. It's called War on Poverty. One mother plus one father equal two parents. Oldest brother plus middle brother plus baby brother equal three kids. Two parents plus three kids equal family of five, circa 1955. One 9 by 12 living room plus one 12 by 12 kitchen dining area plus one bunk bed to help squeeze brothers into one 9 by 12 bedroom equals second floor 3-room apartment with radiators hissing heat in the winter, no AC in the summer, in the city within ear-splitting earshot of LaGuardia Airport. Living room with a couch that converts to bed for parents at night equals second bedroom, but minus the living room. Paper-thin wallpaper walls divided by doors stuck ajar and multiplied by whispered voices fail to equal privacy. One toilet plus one sink plus one bathtub in a 6x9 space equal one bathroom whose light switched on in the middle of the night scares and scatters countless cockroaches. Father runs freight elevator for factory sweatshops, takes extra postal job in the holiday season. Mother gets telemarketing gig before taking civil service exam that rewards her with a 20-year daily round-trip 3-hour commuter crunch. Oldest son delivers newspapers. Thanks to loans and layaway plans and parental selflessness, bills get paid somewhat miraculously. Orthodontics, speech therapists, Catholic schools, 2-week Catskill vacations, plus cultural trips to Manhattan's museums and planetarium and palatial movie theaters. This family of 5 has its own miraculous version of clown car crowding gag, cramming grandparents, uncles, aunts, neighbors, friends in 3-room apartment for holiday feasts, birthday bashes, graduation galas, and no particular reason get-togethers. Add tons of toys, including bicycles, under ceiling scraping tinseled Christmas tree with nativity scene depicting virgin birth miracle, and none of it adds up to poverty, not real poverty, not even a vague feeling of being poor, itself another miracle, perhaps.
I love that poem too. V.S. Pritchett said that a story is something glimpsed from the corner of the eye in passing. And I love the beautiful multi-layered glimpse that that poem gives us. Thank you, Robert. This piece is called Poem Repairs. The scaffolding around the house never comes down. Permanent fixture, part of the furniture. Apparently, there's no end to repairs. Last year's leak over the stairs moved to the ceiling above the dining room, leaving deco goth stripes running down the walls. Shingles above the front door were no sooner replaced when the awning out back eloped with a 40-knot wind. Life in the fast lane. Always work to be done. At some point, life becomes maintenance, writing a poem and adjustment, a small remodel where feelings and perceptions dwell. No work to be done by licensed contractors, no permits, and nothing subbed out. It's a do-it-yourself daily project, though you do draw the line at tarps, like blue tarp Buddha on the house painter's roof, tarp flapping in the wind, concrete sculpture inscrutable, calm as cement. Pretty soon, you can't say when. It's one of those things that just happens. You get used to it. We're hardwired evolutionaries. You come to see scaffolding as part of the architecture. The neighbor's tabby comes to see it as a catwalk. At Christmas, you string it with lights. House painter's blue tarp Buddha gets a Santa's hat. You swear it cracks a smile, though that may be concrete aging. Like so much of life, like anything really, it depends on how you look at it. How you brick and mortar the words as proof to catch up with the reality you like. Words as scaffolding to buttress the wall of opinion, the drywall of belief. So far, last year's repairs over the piano are holding. Like a pantry stocked with canned goods, chowder and minestrone, baked beans and black olives. Who the hell bought the tuna? You glance at your cat. You feel ready for dry rot and wind, rain and leaky pipes, pestilence and plague, ignorance and arrogance, rejection and acceptance. Future repairs of any and all nature destined to appear in your forecast. Scaffolding grows on you, grows on the house. Form follows function, you tell yourself, and soon it is true. True, it's not how you drew it up, but neither is the Ducati in the living room. Neither is this poem. Cats are grateful for the scaffolding that never comes down, and neighbors eventually don't care. Daily, you go about the pages of your life, making an honest living, doing small poem repairs, like a fisherman who mends their net before setting out each morning to see what they will find. Poem repairs.
Beautiful piece, Guy. Life as maintenance. I think we can relate to that the older we get. Scaffolding as an image, beautiful. And I always love the little subtle humor that's in so many of your pieces. Looking at the cat opening a can of tuna, that's very, very funny. Always makes me smile. This one's called Nothing But Net. The exquisite joy of making a jump shot at 74 years old. The basketball at center court of an empty gym extends an irresistible invitation. He enters, looks around, makes sure he's alone. He bounces the ball on the hardwood floor. It simulates amplified drum beats, heartbeats. It stimulates earfuls of echoing flashbacks. He steps at the top of the key. He stares at the metal hoop with its short skirt of bleached white netting. Quite the first-class upgrade from the rusted, busted chain link nets from his playground youth of 60 years ago. Firmly, tenderly, he holds the ball, his focus free from tension, decades melting into refreshing reverie. Hand-eye, mind's-eye orchestration, it's all born-again muscle memory now. Bent arm, snapping wrist, fingertips, tipped toes. His white men can't jump. He shoots. His shot rising, rotating, falling, spinning through time, through space, through a predestined parabolic arc. Swish.
That was beautiful. Choreographed poetry in motion. This piece is called Soup. A friend of mine showed this to a friend, a stranger I don't know, and the stranger was somehow inspired by it and wrote a poem to my poem. And I thought that was just fantastic. Two poems having a dialogue with each other apart from their writers in some imagined sphere. This is called Soup. How do you get any work done around here? Asks Dee Dee. Easy, I say. I call what I do work. That peanut butter sandwich, that poem at 3 a.m., that vase with the $5 bouquet freshened up each day that keeps on giving. I'm swimming in a bowl of soup. If I want a carrot, a noodle, a chunk of chicken, I open my mouth. No lines between pleasure and work and art and chicken noodle. Morning light comes through the stained glass vase on the sill. Standing at the stove, this is as close as I'll ever get to church. Light is my religion. This envelope I'm writing on my hymnal. Words become song and salvation, and I lose all track of time. Mere movements on a watch I don't own. Work is what we do every second of each eternal day. Soup is a poem. Also dinner. Soup.
Thank you, Guy. When last few years that I lived in Sonoma County before moving to Palo Alto, I would go once every Tuesday night to a Buddhist monastery in Pengrove. And this poem is dedicated to those remarkable women who lived there. When meditation was all the rage, 1 minute you're feeling enlightened, meditating with brown-robed, beatific, bald Buddhist nuns. Next minute, you're feeling frightened by high beams flashing, horn-honking, tailgating pickup. 1 minute, you follow your breath. Inhale, exhale, release restless, random, distracting thoughts. Next minute, you're breathless, screaming expletives at the expletive tailgater who can't expletive hear you. 1 minute, you notice the modest monastery's sweet, still air suffused with serenity. Next minute, you imagine tailgater's MAGA hat, swear you hear truck growl like a T-Rex. 1 minute, you're grateful for the monastery's sparseness, its safe, spotless space, so sacred. Next minute, you're resentful of tailgaters' sadistic fun at your expense, despite how fast or how slow you go. 1 minute, you hear one of the nuns speak wisely about how all is transient, all attachment, suffering. Next minute, you see your spiritual effing afterglow reduced to effing ashes on a 2-lane blacktop. 1 minute, you're kneeling, knowing there's no past, no future, only the here and now present. Next minute, you're screaming, you want to pass me? Pass me. Fuck me if I'm pulling over. 1 minute, you're at peace. All is right with the world. All are forgiven, including yourself. Next minute, you're at war. In your slow-to-a-crawl car's interior glow, you hold a middle finger pose. Whatever happens, happens. Namaste.
Thank you, Robert. I love that poem. This is called Edible Grace. How do we know a fact is not also a fiction, a poem, not also a prayer? I'm pushing a cart down the and/or aisle of Stoner's Mine department store, and I discover just what I need: miscellaneous warnings and advice in bulk. I scoop them into a brown paper bag. Instantly, they become a quandary. My twin, who has come along, questions this, which is her right, and which she always does. So we proceed to the front, which could also be the back, and ask the fact checker, who moonlights at Salvador Dali's Deli, famous for the world's tiniest sandwich, so small it could fit in a matchbox, but so dense no one can lift it. So this leaves us with our quandary, a collective noun, undefined. An octopus, by the way, has 3 hearts and 8 tentacles with minds of their own. Imagine the poetry an octopus could write, multiplied by 8. Imagine the pencils alone. Our fact checker rings us up and asks if we want a receipt. We assure them we've had nothing to drink and we're pretty sure it's a fact. At the care facility, I visit a diminishing friend and am mistaken for a patient. In a heartbeat, I sign out at the front desk and go for a bike ride in the breezy afternoon under a sky so blue just to prove I'm not. The jury's still out. So I write this poem and pray. My twin fits her shadow exactly into mine, and for a moment we are one, with 8 tentacles, but only 2 hearts. And the need to dissect fact from fiction, poem from prayer, means less than a tiny sandwich we can't lift. When in doubt, we make cookie dough and lick the beaters. Is any art more beautiful than chocolate chip cookies baking in an oven? Any truth greater than sweet aroma filling the house? Edible grace, our ticket to the sun.
Makes me hungry for cookies, Guy. Before I close out with one more reading, I want to thank Sandy again for this opportunity. It's really special. I can't tell you how gratifying it is. And thank you, Guy, for reading with me. This is called Smoking the Dope of Horoscope. You smoked the dope of horoscope, got the same January birthday as B-list character actor Lee Van Cleef. He played the bad to Clint Eastwood's The Good and Eli Wallach's The Ugly and Sergio Leone's classic spaghetti western. Well, confess, you like being linked with the bad. You're simpatico with the bad, as long as it's B-list bad, pretend bad. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. And before I finish, I too would like to thank my friend Robert for sharing this with me today. It's been a pleasure reading your work and reading my work with you and your work. Thank you, Robert. And Sandy, thank you. Sandy Anfang, who is herself a fantastic poet, a wonderful teacher, and also a very generous, giving, fantastic person to the community, the poetry and writing community. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you, Aquas, and to everybody who may be listening. I'll finish with free verse departure. Poets bring nothing to the party. They don't even ask. They show up on time or late. They get lost. They say they're coming, but don't. Then they arrive in time for food, stand in a corner and drink, never take off their coat. Then they'll strip to a t-shirt and talk about Bird, things you've never heard, as Parker plays on your Alexa. Sometimes poetry breaks out. Someone picks up a guitar, there's action on the roof, shy cats come out of hiding. An enormous radish gets carved into art. Memory floats up from an afternoon in Oaxaca, 1984. The houseboat rises, warms, and then everyone leaves all at once in a free verse departure. Sink full of dishes, someone leaves a hat. The night itself becomes a poem. And guess what? That's what the poets brought. Free verse departure. Thank you.
Thank you both so much, Robert and Guy. That was a fantastic reading. I love how your work is different but so complementary. And you show us scenes of everyday life down to minute details, but with a patina of lowrider sparkle paint. That's my takeaway. Everything is supercharged with your own voice and your own brand of beauty. So thank you so much. Sure, everyone really, really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you, Sandy.
You're welcome. Thank you both.